Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one sportsbook app out there. I'm your host, Rudolph, joined by Evan Rawal, to talk today a little bit about coaching, at least in the NHL, as far as that is concerned. We'll see. I'm curious what Evan thinks on it, but before we do get into that, we do have to talk about the smallest nugget of Avalanche news, where Adidas released the backside of the new Avalanche jersey, in any case.
Of everyone's jerseys.
Yeah. Everybody's jerseys, the reverse retro, they're calling them, got released. So here, this is what it looks like. Not cool. Not a whole lot to talk about there. I mean, they have the light Quebec blue coloring of the numbers and the nameplate, it looks like, but other than that, there's not a ton to go on.
Yeah, my concern here is, like, at least the GIF or the video they sent out for every team, it looks like every jersey is the exact same on the back.
Yeah.
So it's just like, what is this? Either they're just teasing this and this is not what it's actually going to look like. Because that wouldn't, I mean,
is it just a stock image where they put the colors on it, basically?
Yeah, because that would not excite anyone, I don't think, if everyone just had
for sure
the same design. So, I mean, I think everyone's hoping for, and what they seem to be teasing, is the Quebec logo. I mean, I don't know what else they do.
Yeah,
They went Colorado Rockies, which would make no sense.
Given that the Avs current thirds are already, like, paying tribute to them. Yeah, that doesn't make a ton of sense. And yeah, I don't. If the front logo isn't the Nordiques logo, I don't understand these colors either. Because just throwing that light blue on the Avs logo would be ugly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. Like, can I trust any of this? Because like I've never liked the shoulder pads look, if that's actually what they're planning on doing, but who knows? It seems
whatever this stock design or whatever looks pretty basic. Doesn't look very, like, innovative.
Yeah. So clearly not particularly hype on the new logo design yet. That's not to say it won't be cool. There isn't much to go on as far as that is concerned, at least in the Avs way. So we'll cover that more whenever Adidas decides they want to release something. Hopefully tomorrow the NHL decides that they want to release something. Can you trust me? I don't know. Maybe. I'll leave that up to you. Let's get into the main topic of today, which is going to be coaching in the NHL. Evan, when I brought up that we'd be talking about coaches, it took you about 30 seconds to find the worst coach in the NHL. So who is that for you?
Well, I think, a couple came to mind, but actually a couple in the vision that we talked about him yesterday. I don't think John Heinz is a very good coach.
Yeah.
I think he had kind of a fluky season in New Jersey and kind of rode that for a little bit there. And then the other guy is, another reason not to have really any faith in that team is Jeremy Colleton. I don't think he's really shown much of anything there to indicate that he's, an NHL head coach or a good one. So, and then the other guy I was thinking of that had so much hype when he came into the league was, and I know he has a terrible roster now, but Jeff Blaziel, that, he was supposed to be this, the next Mike Babcock. I can't say his name properly, but he was supposed to be the next, up and coming coach. And, he really hasn't done like a whole lot of anything out in Detroit. And obviously, when he came on board, they were kind of a older team, declining. But yeah, I still don't see a whole lot there. So yeah, it'll be. I mean, we all know head coaches recycle every 3 or 4 years, but those are the guys that kind of stood out for me. I don't know if there's any that kind of stand out for you as being baddies.
Dallas Eakins with Anaheim now. Never been a fan, but
yeah.
Statistically speaking, Blashill is one of the 3 worst coaches in the league. The only coach with over 100 games coached to be below 490, 0.490 in points percentage. So, look, I don't know how much of that is Jeff Blashill being a terrible coach and how much of that is Detroit just collapsing into a black hole.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely at the bottom of the list. There's only 2 coaches worse than him, and one of those is Bob Bugner with San Jose, who's only has 37 games coached, and the other is DJ Smith in Ottawa, who pretty much coached the entire season. Actually, did coach the entire season with 71 games, but still his first season as coach.
Well, Bugner was in Florida, wasn't he? And I don't think they really did anything.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, he was pretty rough there too. So
because he was in the running for the Avs.
Yeah, that's right.
Bednar was in.
Yeah, he was one of the people in the conversation. So maybe the Avs dodged a bullet there a little bit.
Yeah. The other guy that has Avs, linkage, I guess, maybe not the best word, but David Quinn.
Yep.
Some of the decisions he makes as far as lineups go in New York, he seems to me the type of coach that maybe you have, and then you just get a better coach when your team is starting to get better.
Like he doesn't now.
Yeah, they're going to need to find one real soon because, I just don't. He nothing about him has ever struck me as great, and like I said, some of the decisions he makes.
Yeah, he has that classic coach feel where he just like sticks the young kids in the bottom 6 and is like, "Too bad, you're not old enough."
Yeah, he was. I mean, Kakko didn't have a great rookie year, but he was pretty rough on him. When I would watch the games, I was like, I can't even where is he even playing? He's not playing all that much. So, and he does seem to gravitate towards the grinders. So
yeah,
that's one of those classic coach things. So those are the guys that kind of stand out as baddies. But yeah, I mean, who knows? We didn't know what Bednar was after his first year, so you never really know.
Yeah, I mean, Bednar, one of the worst first years in hockey history. So things have turned out okay on that front for the Avs. Looking through, I kind of want to get into the topic that I was on with Blashill with Detroit. How much does a coaching matter? How much worse can a coach make you when you're a poor hockey team already?
Yeah, I guess if you're a poor hockey team, I'm not sure how much worse they're going to make you, because if you just don't have the talent, or even if you're a good coach,
how much of a difference do you make on the good
obviously,
side? Yeah.
Bednar is a good coach, and he just couldn't get anything to work that first year. And obviously, a lot of those guys just weren't guys that he would have wanted on his team if he had the choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if the roster's just not there, what can a coach really do? I think where you see the difference is when you have a decent team, a great coach can kind of push you a little bit more, which is kind of the Barry Trotz thing. Which is what makes him stand out. So, yeah, I guess maybe we are a little bit tough on Colton because he really hasn't had that great a roster since he showed up in Chicago. But I don't know. He hasn't shown anything so far.
Here's a Rick Bonus. Would you put him in the ring for one of the worst coaches?
But who knows? He hasn't. He's been an assistant coach forever, and then he gets a nice little playoff run there. So it's just really. It's tough to say. I mean, I don't see you can't really put him in the worst coaches right now because of what he did, what happened in the playoffs, but might switch real fast.
Yeah, I don't fully disagree, but he has the worst career coaching record in the NHL currently.
Well, I think he was the coach of the Ottawa Senators when they were an expansion team, and they were like
That is correct.
very worst team ever. So
had a 10-win season.
yeah, that's going to bring anyone down, and that was like 30 years ago. So,
yeah, it was in 92.
Yeah. So he hasn't been. I don't think he's been a head coach many places. He's just been a assistant for. I think he was like Alain Vigneault's assistant for the longest time.
Yeah, he was the head coach of the old Jets for half a season. He was head coach of Boston for one season, in which he finished second for the Jack Adams voting. And then he was head coach of Ottawa for about 4 years, bounced around, did a little bit of coaching for the Islanders, Phoenix, and now is back to head coaching with Dallas. But so maybe another reason to expect Dallas to regress a little bit next year, maybe.
Yeah, and looking through the head coaches, I completely forgot that New Jersey got rough.
Yep.
He did. I think the game kind of passed him by a little bit, so I'm interested to see that because I don't think he's going to have a great roster out there in New Jersey either. So
I mean, talk about a career that just won't die there.
Yeah.
Dude coached Buffalo for like 15 years or something ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, he's not a head coach anymore, but the guy who always struck me as awful was Jack Capuano. And then talk about an upgrade going from him to Barry Trotz.
Well, I mean, you bring us into this. We'll talk about that in the second period a little bit of who the best coaches are. But just to kind of put a bow on this, it's a bad coach is a lot more apparent on a good team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because a bad team's going to be bad. And maybe a great coach can bring them up a little bit. But if you take a decent team and put a bad coach on it, that's going to hurt them significantly. And, well, we'll save the Avs conversation for later as well. We'll just go ahead and take our first period break here and talk about Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR. You can get 8 different beers on tap down at the DNVR bar, or go to the farmhouse down in Littleton and get dozens of flavors. Whatever type of beer drinker you are, they have a beer for you. And while you're at it, that was a great time to sign up for a subscription to DNVR as well. If you're planning on doing an annual subscription, be sure to use code AVS, as we're doing a little bit of a competition here to see which podcast can get the most signups. So if you want to support us on this AVS podcast, be sure to throw that AVS code in when you're signing up for your subscription to DNVR, or even if you're just planning on extending your subscription if it's getting close to up, or you just want to throw another year on there. It helps us out a ton. We'd really appreciate it. We like to win one of these things. The Broncos always seem to win it, maybe because we always do these when they're in season, but we like to at least be competitive with them. That would be cool. When you do sign up for a yearly subscription right now, it's also a great deal for you. You get a free DNVR shirt and mask along with your subscription. So that's like half the value of the subscription right there, let alone all the awesome subscription content we have. So please sign up, use code AVS. Helps us out a ton. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast presented by.
You saw those hoodies too, right?
Oh, I know, the hoodies are so good. I have to buy one.
Yeah,
I need a new hoodie anyway. I'm hype on the hoodies.
Those hoodies are sweet.
At least, well, I'm not a huge fan of camo, but the all black one.
Yeah, I'm not a camo guy either.
Second period. Presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 rated sportsbook app out there, with Rudo and Evan talking coaches. So let's get into the best coaches in the league. I'm sure Barry Trotz is going to come up quite a bit, but I do want to talk about the Jack Adams Trophy because AJ and I talk about it a lot, and really we both kind of feel the same, that that's just a goaltending award more than it is a coaching award almost.
Yeah, it's the was your team bad last year and are they decent this year?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I guess you're up for the award. So who won it this year? Was it Bruce Cassidy?
Yep.
So they actually gave it to somebody who's like had a good team.
Their team actually did worse this year somehow.
Yeah, like I think probably had to go through. I think they had to deal with a lot of injuries this year too. So it actually felt like maybe the voters got it a little bit more right this year.
Yep.
Whereas, yeah, most of the years it's you get Patrick Waugh, and then 3 years later he's out of the league because he had one fluke season and couldn't keep it together. And then, yeah, it's definitely not. It's the award that I probably take the least serious, or one of them, because everyone can see, everyone who watched the Avs that year saw that they're giving up 40 plus shots a night. It's like,
yep.
Was that Waugh's strategy to really give up 40 plus shots a night? Or I doubt it. So, yeah, it's an interesting award that, I'm glad to see that they gave it to somebody a little bit more deserving this year.
Just for reference, since Patrick Waugh won it in 2013-14, the Jack Adams winners have been Barry Trotz twice, Bob Hartley, John Tortorella, Gerard Gallant, and Bruce Cassidy.
Bob Hartley was with Calgary?
Yep. Some decent coaches in there, but not outside of Trotz, not exactly the who's who of the best coaches in the NHL winning that award.
Yeah.
So
Gallant would have been their expansion year, right?
Correct.
Yeah. That one makes sense to me, because who the heck could have seen that coming?
I mean, how much of that is Gallant and how much of that is just Vegas having the best expansion draft ever and their team clicking?
Yeah.
Regardless of coach.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I guess Gallant's not in the NHL right now. So Trotz is definitely up there. I'm glad to see that he's won a couple. But, yeah, it's maybe they're starting to get it right. Maybe they're starting to figure out that, don't just give it to the fluke coach who had a year.
So outside of Trotz, who everyone talks about as the best coach in the league, who else do you have at the top? Just looking at points percentage of guys that have been around for a little while. You have Cassidy. You have John Cooper with Tampa Bay, just won the Stanley Cup as well. Mike Sullivan in Pittsburgh. Rod Brind'Amour in Carolina. Obviously, good teams as well, but how much credit do those coaches deserve?
Yeah, Brind'Amour is an interesting one, because I did not have many expectations for him when he came in. I don't think he really had much of like a experience when he was hired, and then that team just never stops coming at you. So yeah, he's impressed me a lot. So the one guy you didn't mention that I like more than others, and I know Dario, I think Dario likes him a lot, is Alain Vigneault. He always seems to have really good teams. One thing he does, and I think he was probably one of the first guys to figure it out, is you have offensive players, play them in offensive roles. Like the Sedins used to start like 90% of their shifts in the offensive zone. It's just like, oh, what a concept. Just you have good offensive players, let them be offensive players. So I think he's managed to stick around for a while. Every coach, you guys always talk about it too. Every coach you're going to have issues with. Like Vigneault, as much as I think he's a good coach, he loved Tanner Glass forever. Like,
this is the guy who ended up coaching a team that acquired Cody McLeod twice.
Yeah, like coaches always seem to. There's always like one guy where you're like, I don't get it. Yep. Like, what's going on here? Nate Gennon with the Avs is like, what the heck? Like,
yep.
Yeah, he works hard. We get it. Doesn't mean he should be in the lineup every single night. So, yeah, I mean, John Cooper, how can you can't really say anything wrong about him. Every year that team deals with injuries, and he always has them near the top. And obviously they're a stacked team, but there's something to be said about dealing with injuries and obviously having expectations every single year and seeming just cruising through the regular season. And I'm glad that he was finally able to win, because he seems like such a intelligent coach. Like, he understands his players.
He is one of the coaches, and Jared Bednar falls into this vein as well, that has won as a coach at every professional level in North America, ECHL, AHL, and now this year NHL. So it definitely feels like well-deserved for Cooper, I would say. He's proven it, whereas some of these other coaches, I don't know if you want to call it old boys club and how they got their job or whatever, but he is not one of those coaches in the inner circle that we've seen. Teams play hot potato with the same 15 guys every time there's an opening, it feels like, and they win a different way. Tampa did with Cooper, and the Avs kind of did the same thing with Bednar.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like that side of Cooper's story, and I like that side of Bednar's story with the Avs as well. I think anytime you have success with getting fresh blood into the NHL of coaching, it feels a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and Tortorella, you mentioned he won
a long time ago.
He won the Jack Adams. You mentioned.
Oh, the Adams, sure.
And yeah, he won the Stanley Cup, and I think it's just interesting the way that he has evolved. To when he was with Tampa Bay, it was safe as death. Like, just go play offense, score goals.
Yep.
And now it's like he understands that
to death.
Like he doesn't have the most talented roster in the world. Like, this is how we have to play to win. And I like Tortorella. I know a lot of people in the media don't like him because he's just, he's not going to give you anything. But I think he's kind of hilarious. And I like him as a coach. And everything I've heard is that, yeah, he's tough on you, but he also, he's pretty fair with his players, and his players will back him up for the most part. So, yeah, I like Tortorella, and I think we're at the point now where you got to talk about Bednar being up there as far as one of the better coaches in the league.
I agree, actually, but since you mentioned Tortorella, I couldn't resist. I have to play at least a little bit of this banger.
Of different levels. What was going through your
mind when you
saw the way the game started?
I see the starting lineup. I know the guy.
This is from when he tried to fight Bob Hartley in the locker room.
I kept brothers the wrist that way, and that's where it sits. It needs to be in the game. That's tough. I don't want to, but I have to protect my team. Out of it. I don't feel great about it at all. But I do the same thing again if it can happen. Don't push me. Don't push me. Don't push me. I have to protect my team. Don't push me. Everybody wants to win. Don't push me.
Okay, that's enough of that. I just had to.
Who comes up with this crap?
Dude, it's so good. If you haven't listened to that,
hilarious. But it's like, how do you where do people think about this stuff? Like, I just don't get it.
Someone purchased a auto tuning app and they had to find a use for it, I think, on that one.
Oh, they found a good use for it, I guess.
True. But so let's move into Jared Bednar. Right now, would you consider him a top 10 coach in the NHL?
Yeah.
Yeah, handily?
Especially, well, yeah, I don't know about handily, but I would consider him, just the way that the Avs have trended up. And now that he has more of really a say in the roster,
yeah,
like now that he has the players that he wants to play with,
sure.
You can see like the team plays the way he wants them to play now, and the results are there. And now all of the advanced metrics for the Avs, when he first started, they weren't great, and now they're all, they're much better. So, I think we've obviously discussed it that maybe his assistants is where we could make some improvements, but I think Jared, and when you listen to him talk, yeah, he's not the most exciting guy, but when you get him to talk about things, it's like super detailed, and he's very articulate about what he looks for in a player and what he wants on the ice, and you really can learn a lot just listening to him. I think you can see why the players like playing for him, because he's obviously not a guy who's just going to yell at you. He is more of this new school coach who, he's going to talk to you and he's going to tell you, just teach you rather than just yell at you when you do things wrong. So, yeah, I think he's definitely up there. And like you said, he's won at every level, and he's just got to do that at the NHL now.
All right, so top 10, yes. Can you make a case for him in the top 5?
Oh, now you're going to make me go through every single coach. I have Trotz for sure.
Yeah. I definitely have Cooper ahead of him.
Yeah, Cooper. See, the guy that's tough for me is Quenneville, because it's like
He was
it's been so
good in
long.
Chicago, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a little tough for me. Claude Julien's always a guy who I thought got a lot out of sometimes very little. Like, if you watch Montreal play, they're extremely structured.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have a ton to do there. I do really like Alain Vigneault. He'd probably be in my top 5. That might be controversial to everyone.
I mean, that Flyers team's looking pretty good.
Yeah. And you know what? Screw it. Let's put Bednar in the top 5, and I'll round out the top 5 with Torts because I like Torts.
There you go. Confirmed top 5 coaches in the NHL.
Nope, don't.
Evan's word is law. You have to take it as facts. We can go ahead and take our second period break there, as I got to tell you guys about Chevalier Mortgage. Both Mike and Virginia, long-time Colorado residents. They've been Broncos fans for over 15 years and have supported us here at DNVR for a long time as well. And they are also very, very good at what they do. You can visit them at DNVRmortgage.com and get set up with not only a chance to win a free DNVR shirt or hat, but a free consultation as well, as they do believe that your home is likely to be one of your largest assets in your mortgage, your largest debt, and that it's vital to consider your full financial picture when purchasing a home. This includes considering your short-term and long-term planning goals, your investments, and your tax situation. Mike and Virginia will work tirelessly to find the best loan for your situation when you visit them at DNVRmortgage.com, or you can call Virginia directly at 303-257-6578. Again, you can get a free consultation when you hit them up. Michael Chevalier, NMLS 1931006. Virginia Chevalier, NMLS 1910631. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, the number 1 rated sportsbook app out there. Yes, we all have Trotz at number 1, AJ. You can clap to your Islanders once again. But I did want to get into the Avalanche coach rankings.
Luckily, it's pretty short.
Yeah, there's only 7 coaches. So you don't have to go that deep. If you have Bednar in the top 5 currently, is he number 1 on this list? Or is
we just have to look at what they did with the Avs?
Yes, Avs only. Like, obviously, Joe Quenneville's career is going to be better than what Bednar's done.
Yeah, and then Hartley.
Well, that's the question. You have Hartley and Crawford, who won Stanley Cups with the Avs, but those teams were also stacked.
Mm-hmm.
So, how much credit does Bednar get having never made a conference finals as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely tougher in a cap era, I feel like, to do what he did last year specifically.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't put him ahead of. I'd probably have Crawford 1, just because I think those teams were a little less stacked than the Hartley teams.
True.
I guess the thing with Bednar is that up until last year, the Avs were still squeaking into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, especially 2 years ago, it was like, who wants to be this last seed? I think it was them and Coyotes who just kept
trying to lose.
What, they make it with like 88 points or something like that?
That was pretty low.
So I probably wouldn't put him number 1. I'd probably have Crawford 1, just because while those teams were super talented that he had, they were also relatively young, and he was able to mold them and help build them into a championship winner, which they probably should have won more, but that's just the way it is when you're playing a team like Detroit that was stacked as well at the same time. So, and as much as we talk about, I guess we just talked about it, a bad coach on a good team. I mean, You deserve credit for being able to win, even with a great team. It's still hard. Whereas Tony DiGranato had a stacked team and didn't do anything. So
I think we can safely put Tony Granato near the bottom of the list.
yeah.
So Crawford 1, Bednar 2, or you gave it to Hartley at 2.
I know it's just
You could have the conversation of Quenneville at 2, honestly, as well. But
yeah, especially because that was kind of that weird transition era of the Avs right out of the lockout, where it's a little bit different. Man, Quenneville's playoff win percentage is bad, but that's probably all because of that sweep by the Red Wings.
I mean, he got them to the playoffs is the thing.
Yes, that is true. So number 2, at least if we're just judging them specifically on their Avs time, I'll go Hartley. I'll give him the edge at 2, and then I'd probably have Bednar 3. I'd have Bednar Quenneville as tied for 3. We're just gonna
a tie at 3. All right, the
That's a
bronze medal
cop-out.
tie confirmed.
Yeah.
To the 100th of a second or whatever.
Yeah.
So Stanley Cup talk still, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and I mean, even though there was only a few teams that they really had to worry about back then, it's still hard to win the Stanley Cup. And they did that. And they won the Stanley Cup that year without Peter Forsberg. It's not like they had their full squad. So,
Well,
yeah.
and in the actual Cup Finals itself, it's not like the Avs just walked over New Jersey, kind of like they did with Florida in 96. The New Jersey series went to 7 games. It came down to some pretty narrow margins in the end.
Yeah, and the LA series went to 7 games that year too. So, yeah, there were some narrow margins there. I mean, I guess the Avs have had some decent coaches. It's just up until we got Bednar, it had been a good bit until we got a good one.
Yeah, how do we rank the bottom 3 then? As we're left with Granato, Sacco, and Waugh. I think most people put Sacco at the bottom of that list.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that Sacco, if you look back at some of those teams he had, their analytics were actually pretty good.
The underlying.
The underlying numbers of those teams were pretty good. He just seemingly had he maybe was a good X's and O's coach more than he was, but like he just couldn't, like his personality just wasn't there. I don't know. Like the whole we didn't start the game on time just wasn't just a living meme back during those years.
It really was. And as of today, he is the only Avalanche coach under 500. So
yeah, and he's been the Boston assistant for years
now. Yeah,
and I think he runs their power play or one of their specialty units. But that's see. The one thing that's tough to take into account with Waugh is that he was responsible for building some of those crappy teams.
Yeah, because he was the president. Too, so.
Yeah, so he made the decisions. So it's like he wanted those rosters and they just didn't work.
Yep.
So it's like, do we hold that against him? And I kind of want to because
you definitely hold it against him. Do you hold him against him as a coach is the question. Yeah.
I want to say yeah, because that's obviously how he wanted to play. Like he wanted those older guys in his lineup.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work. And as much as, Sacco's under 500, but I'm just imagining that Waugh's win-loss record is just held up, cranked up by that first year.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and Waugh should have won a playoff round. I'm just going to say it. They should have beaten Minnesota. I might put Sacco above Waugh, to be honest, but just barely.
So, I mean, the guy we're ignoring here is Tony Granato.
No, we decided he's last.
You've decided?
You said it.
I didn't say that. I said Sacco by a lot of people is put last.
I thought you said Granato at the start that we're going to put him last.
I mean, I think there's a real case for it. He's the only, of the list of the guys at the bottom, he's the only one that actually had a legitimately good team and couldn't do anything with it. So,
Yeah, whereas the other guys had talent issues. Granato feels like, and the thing is, his win percentage is so high that the first run.
Yep.
But the talent around him, when you have guys like Sakic and Forsberg and all those guys, it's just you're going to win games. But the fact that you're not able to take them to the next step, I think that needs to be held against you. And there was a lot of decisions back then. I don't remember the exact minute decisions that I wouldn't these days from these other coaches the last 10 years, but
it's been a minute.
Yeah, those teams should have still won some Stanley Cups.
Yeah, I mean,
and they didn't even get far.
That super team that lost in the second round is like,
yeah,
come on. But JT says it's the fact that Patrick Roy let him save some face and scrutiny for making bad decisions. Not really. I at least in my mind, I separate the player Patrick Roy from the coach Patrick Roy. They're basically two different entities to me.
Mm-hmm. I think at the time maybe people would be like, well, he's Patrick Roy. He knows what he's doing. And now you look back, you're like, well, I don't think he knew what he was doing.
I think that bought him the first year where they had a super high win percentage off of just total butt magic, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then one more year where all of a sudden they struggled. They couldn't make the playoffs. By the time his third year as coach came around, I think any grace period was dead for him. So
yeah. I have a Brad Stewart story just from one of my jobs I was doing at the time. I don't know if I should tell it because I was working in the roofing business, and the day he got bought out, he called our company to get some work done, and one of the guys went over there and was like, hey, where you headed? He's like, I'm getting out of here. And then the news broke an hour later that he got bought out or whatever it was.
The roofing business is the inside source.
Yeah. My buddy called me. He's like, do you know who Brad Stewart is? I was like, yeah. There you go.
He's getting bought out.
Yeah. He's upgrading that house and probably making some money. I think he was heading back to California, which
makes sense. Yeah.
I would do too.
Same.
But,
San Diego would be where I'd move if I didn't live in Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing you got to hold against Waugh. He traded for Brad Stewart, and then he just kept defending him. I remember there was after one game where he just, out of nowhere, he's just like, can we talk about Brad Stewart and how good he was tonight? It's just okay. Cool.
I mean, I guess you got to defend him when you extend him for 2 years before he plays a single game, but
yeah. But that's the thing is that's who he wanted on his team. That's obviously the way he wanted to play, and I think you got to hold that against him.
I'm with you. I think that's why he gets knocked down the list quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then leaving super unceremoniously probably doesn't help either. But
yeah, I have not. I always see the French articles come up with him talking about the Q, but I don't keep up anymore.
Yeah,
with what he's going on about.
I'll keep up when he wants to rejoin the NHL, maybe. But
yeah.
So we have the list officially, and the short answer is win a Stanley Cup if you want to be a good coach.
It's a cop out, but it I mean, if you win, it holds you in higher regard.
Just that easy.
I think Bednar can do it too. So we'll see. Maybe next year he'll be at the top.
Number one confirmed, Jared Bednar.
It's probably harder to win now, I would think, than it was back in the non-cap, 5 elite team era. Because you got to go through. Teams are more on an even playing field here.
Yep, parity in the league. It's
real.
Yeah, there's a reason they call the NHL playoffs the hardest playoffs in sports.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get a cup, you definitely have cemented your place as a coach in the NHL, even if you do end up being a terrible coach later on in life, like Mark Crawford. But
yeah, well, let's not talk about that.
Fair enough. On that note, we are going to get out of here for the day. Of course, got to let you guys know about DraftKings Sportsbook. With another weekend coming up here, you can save up to $100 with their guaranteed coverage of your bets on football this weekend. That's right. You can bet up to $100 risk-free. If you end up losing those bets, DraftKings will cover you, and you'll be good to go. Reloaded to fire off some more bets once again when you sign up with code DNVR as a new user. There's tons of action coming this weekend, so be sure to get your bets in on whatever you prefer, including a bunch of different Masters promotions and odds boosts. They have different ones every single day. Y'all already know, like I said the other day, just put $1 down on someone with ridiculous odds and maybe you'll win the lottery. Who knows? You might as well give it a shot. So jump in on it. DraftKings, super safe, reliable, and secure, making it easy to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. So if you win big and you want to cash out, you can do it whenever you feel like. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use that DNVR promo code when you sign up to get that can't-miss offer of covering $100 in insurance on your bets. And, yeah, just have fun with it. Excuse me. Must be 21 or older. Thought Evan was going to say something, and then he didn't. So must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Risk-free coverage. Paid out. Insight credits. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. All right, we're going to get out of here for today. Thank you, everyone, for watching, listening, however you consume the podcast. Always much appreciated. Again, if you're thinking about hitting an annual subscription for DNVR, be sure to use that Avalanche code. It's code AVS, AVS. And that's going to do it.
And we might have news tomorrow because they're supposed to announce
allegedly
some sort of plan.
It probably won't come till tomorrow night, so our show will probably be over. But there should be hockey news on the near horizon on when the season is at least scheduled to come back. So something to look forward to for tomorrow. Until then, we'll talk to y'all later.